Saturday, November 8th, 2025, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Well, we've gone away for a day to visit some friends we hadn't seen in a long time. Yes, I've been watching everything, watching the markets, watching the developments vis-a-vis the federal government shutdown in the U.S. I've been watching the climate change joke, the circus, COP30. We're going to talk about that too. And we're going to talk about gold revaluation today. I think gold revaluation by the U.S. Treasury could be closer than most people think. And I will tell you why. And yes, the stock market wobbled a little bit this week. I think it was the worst week since April. The markets did recover towards the end of the day yesterday. Gold and silver is still consolidating. It's been since mid-October, about 3 weeks now that we're consolidating. We need to be patient. Of course, I'm not getting rid of my gold, nor my miners. The miners actually rallied quite nicely yesterday. I saw gold closed just around 4,000 in the spot price. So still up massively this year. Silver trading around 48.60, I think, or 48.50. And there's a lot of talk as well now that, well, not talk, but the news is that the U.S. Government has finally put copper and silver in the list of critical minerals. And so has China. China has, I think, banned the exports of silver. They've put it on a critical minerals list as well. And I think the other thing we need to talk about is maybe Mexico vis-a-vis silver, the biggest producer of silver in the world. Politically, they're getting they're not too happy with what the U.S. government is doing. Let's say vis-a-vis Venezuela, the Latin American countries are not too happy. Silver Academy spoke about this recently, or wrote about it. You should check out Silver Academy Substack. It wouldn't be out of the realms a possibility that the Mexican government could nationalize some mines owned by American companies if President Trump keeps saber rattling vis-a-vis Venezuela, for example. And politically as well, it wasn't a great week for President Trump with these one-off elections. And I think the message from these elections and the mayor election in New York is that the bottom 50% in the U.S. They're not benefiting from this massive rise in asset prices. Again, I think the top 1% or top 10% of Americans own 2/3 of all the wealth. And that's not just in the U.S., it's also in other Western countries. Unfortunately, even in the UK, we're becoming more and more like third world countries. But so what I'm going to do now is talk about a little bit about this climate change COP30 thing that's going on in Brazil. Usually don't talk about this, but I think it's really important because this has all been planned. It's been a narrative that's been built up since the 70s, maybe even late 60s, by the Rockefeller and the Rothschild family, the environmental movement. I mean, you can find material online about UNCED in 1992 and how these bankers, they're building this narrative that we have a global problem because, the climate affects everyone. And they use that as a method of controlling and taxing us. And I give President Trump credit on the fact that he doesn't believe in it, even though there are things he's done that I think I don't agree with. But suffice it to say, apparently my wife was telling me that the British delegation sent over 300 people to Brazil on different private jets to tell us how we should not fly and not live our lives because we need to save the planet and we need to cut down our carbon emissions, our carbon footprint, which is rubbish, really, because carbon is the gas of life. But for them, it doesn't matter because they can go, they make these trips on taxpayers' money, and even the future King of England was there, and that's a really bad move by him. But I guess I saw someone post that he caught the climate change disease from his dad. So what do I think climate change is? What do I think Bitcoin, cryptos, table coins are? And my wife has been reading this book that I have, and I think I've featured it in my book reviews, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds by Charles Mackay. And I think this is what it's all about. Climate change, Bitcoin, cryptos, stable coins. These are just extraordinary popular delusions and madness. And they will go away because they make no sense whatsoever. Things that are not going to go away, that are timeless, are things like gold and silver. And also common sense, hopefully. So that's how I see this climate change thing in the U.S., not in the U.S., of course, in Brazil, this COP30 conference. So back to gold revaluation, and this has been a topic we've been talking about quite a bit since the beginning of the year, mainly because in January we found out that a lot of physical gold was flowing back to the U.S. over, I think, 400 tons, and it could have been more. And a lot of people speculate that and it started in December, and people speculate that with Trump coming into power, that he would have to bring the gold back to do an audit of Fort Knox, and then revalue the gold, and that's highly possible. I think there's still a lot of gold flowing into the U.S. Whether there's 8,133.5 metric tons, or about 261 million troy ounces in the Treasury vaults, it is questionable, but I think it's something people will I think they'll do it, though. Even Judy Shelton, who I've had on the channel, who's written a book, Good as Gold, which I've also talked about here, in which she says they should start issuing treasury bonds backed by gold that could be redeemable at maturity by gold, and that would have like a call option on the price of gold. So it would kind of put a straitjacket, hopefully, on government spending. She thinks that we need an audit, and she thinks revaluation would be a good thing. So why did I say I think revaluation is closer than most people might think? Well, I think there's a few things hanging over the economy, the financial system, the government shutdown. I saw that it's now affecting internal domestic flights in the U.S. It could affect international flights as well, because the federal agencies don't have the money to pay for the flight controls, or the people who do all the controls for the flights. And I heard that hundreds of flights are being canceled. That's going to affect everything. And the federal government, of course, funds a lot of programs in all aspects and sectors of the economy. That's draining liquidity from everything, less people getting paid. And that's why I think the stock market is wobbling a little bit. And we've also seen a problem in the credit market with the shadow banking companies that have collapsed out of the blue, like First Brands, what's the other one, Tricolor, and there could be many others. And commercial real estate is still not out of the woods. We've seen that banking reserves are dropping to very low levels, mainly because of this liquidity and the government shutdown. But I saw that the Senate, the Democrats offered a deal to stop the shutdown. I think it was to extend benefit payments or something that Trump, the Republicans, wanted to cut for a year, and the Republicans rejected that. So it will be interesting to see what happens on Monday when the markets reopen. Because I think the rally at the end of the day yesterday was because people thought there would be a deal, but it doesn't look like there is, or maybe there is. You can comment below. And so back to gold revaluation. Yeah, that could really damage the economy. The stock market crashing, the economy is running on the stock market. Even President Trump said that the economy is also booming because of AI. All the AI data centers that, how does that help the bottom 50? They don't really work in these data centers. And AI is contributed to more than half of GDP growth recently in the US in the second quarter, I think. So it's an economy that even Jay Powell, in his latest FOMC press conference, noted that there's two economies, one at the top where people are benefiting from AI and asset price inflation, and the other one where the bottom 50 are suffering, that they're having the cost of living going up. And I think that's why that guy in New York won that election, the mayoral election. I'm not saying I agree with him. I don't really know much about him, but I've seen a lot of bad stuff. And it's probably true, but he focused on, people having a tough time coping. So, yes, if that were to happen, the stock market, big correction in the stock market, revaluing gold could be a way to bring the economy back from kind of a bad recession, and that's been done before. It was done back in 1933-34 by Roosevelt in the depths of the Great Depression. He, of course, did it a bit differently because back then gold was part of the monetary system, so he had to kind of force people, the gold confiscation, bring in all the gold and make it illegal. And then in 1934 he revalued it from $20.67 to $35, and that windfall was used for all the government spending and the New Deal. Yeah, of course, I don't believe in that government intervention. That's Keynesian and even socialist. And it's ironic, isn't it, that President Trump could do that if the economy falls off a cliff, instead of asking the Fed to do QE and the government indebting itself even more. They would have a windfall, let's say at $4,200, it would be $1 trillion windfall. Isn't that much, right? But if they revalued gold to 20,000, that would be a 5 trillion windfall, and with no QE needed. That's one way to look at the gold revaluation. The other thing that could happen, and one of my friends told me this recently, is that the Supreme Court is going to make a ruling. I don't know when it is, but it could be any time, that the tariffs are unconstitutional, and that would put the cats amongst the pigeons. It would lead to a massive, correction in the stock market as well. It would lead to the Treasury having to reimburse hundreds of billions in tariffs that importers have paid. It would, ruin Trump's program. The deficit would rise. So, gold revaluation would be like the only thing left for him to do. And some people might say, oh, this is gold bugs talking about this, but that you're wishing this and that's never going to happen. But it's happened 4 times in history. 1835, Andrew Jackson revalued gold from, I think, $19.39 to $20.69. 1934, President Roosevelt revalued from 2067 to 35. And in 72, President Nixon revalued from 35 to 38. And then the year after, he revalued it from 38 to 42.22, which is where we are right now. And that's only worth $11.1 billion. So yeah, 100 times that to 4,000 would be, of course, 1.01 trillion. So that's why I think gold revaluation could be very close. And I think, yeah, things are getting very interesting. And what else is going on in terms of, let's say the UK, my viewers in the UK and the budget? Well, it's not going to be any good, is it? They only seem to be like the Labour government. They're like a hammer, and everything to them seems like a nail. And the hammer, of course, is taxes. They don't think about cutting the size of government, cutting taxes. But again, they can't, because the backbenchers, they want all the government spending because the people who voted for them, that's what they want. And therein lies the problem with democracy. Yeah, people vote so that politicians can take from Peter to pay them, Paul, right? And that's why I think voting is the worst thing you can do. And what do I mean by that? Well, if everyone boycotted elections, they would have no legitimacy to politicians. And they'd have to do something that would actually be useful to the people, like protecting their private property and the rule of law, because that's what governments should do. They shouldn't be raiding your private property, and I think that's the whole problem in the West with socialism, even fascism, big government intervention, bailouts. That's the destruction of the rule of law and private property, and that's why our economies are in such bad state. That's why we have so much debt. So there's an old saying, I think, by the Stoics, who said that democracy is a polite way of allowing the slaves to think that they're running things. So, yeah, boycott all these elections. Does it get better? It doesn't really matter what side of the, what red or blue, who we elect. It doesn't seem to matter. So that's the way I see things. Focus on yourself, your family, your friends, community, and yeah, try not to get too bogged down with what's going on in the world. You need to know what's going on to protect yourself, and yeah, hold on to your gold and silver for dear life. And keep accumulating it, because it's not going to get better. So with that, I'm going to sign off here. It's getting a little chilly out here. And talk to you later. And I wish you a great weekend. And unfortunately, tomorrow I will be posting a video, but I won't be able to do a Sunday live stream. But there will be a surprise tomorrow. So you might want to tune in maybe Monday. And yeah, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.